Namaskar, welcome back. Viewers, after making some tall, unsubstantiated, imaginary claims of victory over India, Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has now been travelling around the world and emphasizing that he wants dialogue talks with India. But India has made it very clear that the only agenda for talks with Pakistan, if ever, will be on the situation in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir and terrorism. Prime Minister, Raksha Mantri, External Affairs Minister, all of them made this amply clear throughout the week. So, on Media Scan, this weekend, we'll go down the statements of these leaders and try to decipher what is meant by their comments on Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. For that, I have a special panel of experts here with me this evening. But before that, let's listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say during a very interesting address in Gujarat.
1947 में जब मां भारती के टुकड़े हुए, कटनी चाहिए थी तो जंजीरें, लेकिन काट दी गई भुजाएं। देश के 3 टुकड़े कर दिए गए। और उसी रात पहला आतंकवादी हमला कश्मीर की धरती पर हुआ। मां भारती का एक हिस्सा आतंकवादियों के बलबूते पर, मुजाहिदों के नाम पर पाकिस्तान ने हड़प ले लिया। अगर उसी दिन इन मुजाहिदों को मौत के घाट उतार दिया गया होता, और सरदार पटेल की इच्छा थी कि पीओके वापस नहीं आता है तब तक सेना रुकनी नहीं चाहिए, लेकिन सरदार साहब की बात मानी नहीं गई और ये मुजाहिदीन जो लहू चख गए थे, वो सिलसिला 75 साल से चला है।
So, with that very interesting bite in historical perspective, let me introduce you to our experts for this evening. I have here with me on Media Scan, Major General Dhruv Katoch, well-known analyst, author and director at the India Foundation. Namaskar, welcome sir.
Namaskar ji.
Also joining Media Scan for the first time, Tara Kartha. She is a director at CLAWS, the center which studies warfare studies, land warfare. She has also previously served in the National Security Council Secretariat. Namaskar Tara ji and welcome.
Thank you.
So if I may come to General Katoch here first. Sir, is it a fact, as the Prime Minister pointed out, that had this, the Mujahideen not tasted blood in 1947-48, this festering issue of Kashmir that we have been suffering for decades would have actually been nipped in the bud then and then?
Thank you. Yes. You see, there is a phenomena in life. If an evil occurs somewhere and you allow it to fester, it will keep coming again and again and again. But if you treat it the first time, then the chance of recurrence is very low. Now, in this particular case, I think we were very, very soft on the Mujahideen. And I see no reason why we were soft. We should have continued that battle right till the end. And it was not simply the Mujahideen. They were actually led by the Pakistani military, and there were elements of the Pakistan military which were part of the Mujahids which they had sent. They called them the raiders in 1947-48. And you see, I understand that India was we had it was a new republic. There were many challenges there, but then the same challenges were there for Pakistan also.
Yes.
They were facing tremendous challenges. So to say that only India had the challenges, I don't think it is right. That was the time we should have pursued with the military aim till it was completed. There was no reason to go to the UN at all. I think that was a mistake which we made. But okay, for whatever reason they made that mistake. But the military operation should never have been stopped. Simply stating that okay, we want peace and all that, it doesn't work. The best way to guarantee peace is to be strong and enforce it. Weakness begets wars, as we have seen what happened in 1948, 1965, and then it continues right up to Kargil. And then we have a series of attacks. And ultimately, it was only when we changed our policy from strategic restraint to deterrence, and now from deterrence it has come down to compellence. I think that change is going to come about, and things are going to be different from now on, because every time Pakistan does something, the consequences will be very severe. So fine. I think we made a mistake in 48, and that needs to be rectified.
Very interesting. Allow me to come to Tarak Artha here. Ma'am, one thing that the Prime Minister pointed out during his address, and then later it generated a lot of political debate, was his point about the views of Sardar Patel. Now we know that there are any number of documents, analysis, books written by authors speaking about that step taken to go to the UN. But one thing that has not been much discussed is what were the views of Sardar Patel, the then Home Minister, and what could have been the scenario had his views been hidden by the then Prime Minister. Your thoughts?
Sardar Patel, as you know, I mean, we all call him the strong man, and I would say that his view on this was very clear, that we should not let this go. But he also sort of gave space to Nehru. He was never one to push himself forward and try to grab the limelight. He always worked from the back, worked quietly, and tried to get what was the best for the country. In fact, there is evidence to show that the Hyderabad military action would never have taken place if it had not been for Sardar Patel.
Absolutely.
He was very clear on what was needed. And going to the UN, I mean, what on earth was Nehru thinking? I mean, okay, so that's probably in the past. But thereafter, a couple of things happened which made things doubly worse. In 1949, these guys, they went and split the whole Kashmir into two. An agreement called Karachi Agreement, which nobody has ever seen. No one has seen this agreement. And Gilgit-Baltistan, the then northern areas, was divided into the other, and then created this whole Azad Kashmir rubbish. And not a single person from Gilgit-Baltistan was on that panel. They were not even asked. And today they are telling us. That was another one. Then was the Indus Waters Treaty, which was 1960. Which is the most insane treaty I've ever seen. I mean, so that whole series of policies doesn't seem to have had any logic.
Okay. A very quick question here to General Katoch, and then I'll move on to the other issues on the table. Sir, since Tarak Artha has mentioned it, I want to know from you. She mentioned the Indus Waters Treaty, the Karachi Agreement, which we hear references of, but nobody's really seen it. And later still we have the Shimla Agreement. Is it also not a fact that there have been series of agreements and discussions which slowly but surely compromised our position on Kashmir as well as our national security?
Actually, our position on Kashmir, the way I have studied it, has been compromised right since 1947. I will say right since 1948 or the beginning of 1949. And then seriously, every time there was a talk of Kashmir, it was always assumed that we are going to talk of the portion of Kashmir which is with us and not which has been illegally occupied by Pakistan. And this state of affairs continued for a very, very long time. I remember that time, I was discussing with Mr. Doval, the present NSA, and he said we have to change this trend so that we have more space for maneuvering. And I think from 2014, the policy started changing very distinctly to say that no, the only thing which is to be discussed is the illegal occupation by Pakistan of Jammu and Kashmir, the portion which they have got. That is basically we're talking of Gilgit-Baltistan and Mirpur Muzaffarabad. Now that change has come about, and I think this change is going to be, it'll impact firstly national policy and secondly world opinion also.
So if I read you correctly, sir, I would gather that you are saying that our policymakers for a very long time, though not on the land, but in our minds made us believe that the LOC is actually the international border.
Yes.
But,
yes.
But moving on from this subject, as I mentioned in the beginning of our discussion, there have been comments on Pakistan-occupied Jammu Kashmir by External Affairs Minister S. Shankar as well as Raksha Mantri. So let us quickly listen in to what their remarks were so we can go down that road a little.
The only thing which remains to be discussed on Kashmir is the vacation of illegally occupied Indian territory in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. We are open to discussing that with Pakistan.
पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर के लोग वो हमारे अपने हैं, हमारे परिवार का हिस्सा हैं। हम प्रधानमंत्री के श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत के संकल्प के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध हैं और हमें यह पूर्ण विश्वास है कि हमारे वो भाई जो आज हमसे भौगोलिक और राजनीतिक रूप से अलग हैं, वो भी अपने स्वाभिमान, आत्मा की आवाज और स्वेच्छा से भारत की मुख्य धारा में कभी न कभी जरूर वापस लौटेंगे। भारत हमेशा ही दिलों को जोड़ने की बात करता है और हमें विश्वास है कि प्रेम, एकता और सत्य के मार्ग पर चलकर वह दिन दूर नहीं जब हमारा ही अंग पीओके स्वयं लौटकर कहेगा, मैं भारत हूं, भारत ही हूं, मैं वापस आऊंगा और वापस आया हूं।
So Tarakartha, there is this entire campaign narrative going on in the Pakistan media which keeps repeating Kashmir Banega Pakistan. Our Raksha Mantri has very emphatically stated that a time will come when the people of current Pakistan-occupied Jammu Kashmir will willingly become part of India as they are our brothers. Why do you think he said that?
I think it's a far more reasonable position, right, to say that you make a Kashmir so wonderful enough that they want to come to you. That is one. Number two is the fact we've had frequent instances where they tried to, they protested to open the route into Kargil. They protested that we are the victims of this whole dispute between India and Pakistan, that we want, the Awami Action Committee, in fact, during Pahalgam, there were protests saying that, listen, we don't want to be part of this, we want to be part of Kashmir. The whole lot were put behind bars. So this is the kind of, the feeling, popular feeling in both these areas, that we've been cheated out because they have no passport. They are the last colony on earth. They have no citizenship. They have no governance. Everything is decided in Pakistan, but they have no sovereignty. Constitutionally, they are not part of Pakistan. Then whom do they belong to? How can you keep a country in limbo like this, which is neither here nor there? So say somebody from there wants to go abroad, what passport does he use? So there is a lot of discontent. Plus there have been these protests on power bills, inflated huge power bills, despite the fact these countries provide Pakistan with hydropower. They are the main sources for Pakistan's hydropower. Despite that, they have no electricity. So there are multiple issues with taxation, because nothing is decided locally. It's all decided by this minister sitting in Islamabad. So they want to be part of Kashmir where their voices are heard, part of our Kashmir. And that is, I think, what Defence Minister Rajnath Singh very reasonably is saying, that to get them to come to us and it will happen one day.
So, General Katoch, coming to you, sir, how possible do you think is this whole issue of POK wanting to join with their brothers on this side of Jammu Kashmir? Also, despite all the discrimination which Tarakartha has flagged in very few words, and all that they suffer at the hands of the Pakistani establishment, We hear so much about what's going on in Gaza, in the Middle East and other parts of the world. Wherever there is a problem or conflict, we do hear very little in the Western media or even the global media about what the people of PoJK have been suffering for decades.
Actually, that is true, and that remains the tragedy. Whatever has happened, and I would like to, differentiate between these two areas. When we are talking of PoJK, specifically Gilgit-Baltistan is a separate area, and Mirpur Muzaffarabad is a separate area. Gilgit-Baltistan is the one which is lying on the upper mountain reaches, and that is where really the Indus flows, and then it flows down onto the plains of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and onwards. So when we are looking at Gilgit-Baltistan, I have met quite a large number of people from there who are now settled in the US and who occasionally come to India, and they have always expressed the desire that they would like to join India. Now the problem really is that there is no way in which India at this point of time would like to carry out a military operation of a nature in which you want, you can annex Gilgit-Baltistan, and then of course after that take over Mirpur Muzaffarabad.
Now, why not?
No, because it's a very complicated military operation. But what will happen is when we have a situation like in 1971 developing, where when we look at 1971, what happened there was the people of then East Pakistan rose up in revolt against West Pakistan.
Right.
Now, when you have that situation, a similar type of situation, then military operations become very easy, because when we go in to liberate this area, the Pakistan army will be fighting the local Gilgit-Baltistan people. They will be looking behind their backs and under every tree, under every hillock, and they will not be able to manage it. And we will be cooperating with the local people and in the process of liberation. Now that becomes a very, very viable proposition. So as Tarak has very correctly said in the beginning, make your own Jammu and Kashmir that prosperous, that this desire, which is already, it is a latent desire there, it has to come out with great force. And once it comes up in great force and the people say, we want to be on the other side, then you see how the military operations within a week or 2 weeks, it'll be very successful, and you can actually take over that entire area, and and the liberation can take place, but not without public support. That is my only limitation. Without public support, you can actually take over an area, but holding on to it becomes a very, very difficult proposition,
right,
as the Americans have found wherever they have been. You can take over an area, but holding it is a different kettle of fish. And ultimately, as they saw in Afghanistan, the Americans had to go back. So it doesn't work that way. You require that public support, and once we get it, I think Pakistan is going to be, this portion, which as very correctly said, is not even as per the Pakistani constitution, it is not part of Pakistan.
Yes.
As per the Indian constitution, it is a part of India. All that we are doing is getting it back and, getting back to constitutional integrity. That is the word I will use.
Fine. So, very well explained. And since you mentioned about people rising up, only then, it is easier in all ways if you look at it. As you mentioned the case of Bangladesh, the then East Pakistan. Tarakartha, if we look at the resentment, the dissatisfaction among people, then we already have one area in Pakistan where the people have already declared independence. They are just not ready to continue with the Pakistan establishment even for a day, and that is Balochistan. So while we are discussing the situation in PoJK and elsewhere, how about what's going on in Balochistan? How long do you think Pakistani army and government will be able to hold on to their control of Balochistan when the people are so seriously and aggressively against them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I would also like to completely agree with the other panelists in the fact that any military operation there is probably a very bad idea. I'm talking of POK because of the nature of the terrain and the number of ethnicities, and the fact also that Pakistan has very cleverly made China a third party by ceding a whole area of, I think it's about 8,000 square kilometers or something, Shaksgan. The whole Shaksgan has been ceded to China. So they have been very clever about it. Balochistan, on the other hand, is a different issue. It is slowly gaining international recognition because
Yes,
you have,
yes.
people, the Nobel Peace Prize, all that has been proposed. And forget about strategic politics. Those poor people are in a terrible state. I mean, they have been, the children, their youngsters are lifted every day, the women are being raped. It is a problem which, setting aside strategy on moral principles, we need to help them with everything. In fact, I had written in the Hindustan Times that let's openly support them. As long as we say no terrorism, we don't support terrorism, we will support people who want independence with whatever, they say moral support, political support, okay, we'll do the same. So it's
So you are saying India must not support violence of any kind, but
Exactly.
their aspiration to break away and have the independent status is something, a political position which we should go with.
Yes, absolutely. Why
But
should
how
you
do we do that?
You go to the UN, you go to every friendly country and you plead their cause. What prevents you from saying that?
Right,
If
right.
they can talk of so-called political moral support for years and then supplying guns to... I mean, Pakistan, I just want to make this clear. Pakistan as a terrorist entity is not just for us. It's a terrorist entity for Afghanistan, for Iran, for China in certain times. So they are a terrible sort of place to be in, and the Baloch I think they need better than what they're getting.
Okay, okay. Just time enough for a last question, and this I am putting to General Katoch. Sir, while we have had a lot of writing and discussion, and now quite a bit of international focus on what's going on in Balochistan, isn't it a fact that now the third province of Pakistan, that is Sindh, has also erupted in protests? We are hearing reports, though they have been, there has been a crackdown on the media, we are told. But we still read snatches of media reports here and there that there are dozens of kasbas and towns in the Sindh province where there is a kind of a total strike. People are protesting because they are being discriminated against by the Punjabi dominated establishment. So practically, if you leave out Punjab, the whole of Pakistan is in a kind of a turmoil.
Very correctly put. But you see, while Balochistan is up in flames, and at some point of time, I think their secession will take place. I think Sindh is going to be a much more serious problem for Pakistan than what they have imagined. And that is simply because they are trying to divert the limited waters which they have, which were flowing into Sindh, onto the Punjab-Cholistan desert. That is the root cause of the problem.
Through canals and other constructions.
Those canals, and that, if that takes place, Sindh will be up in flames. And now the problem is going to be, Punjabis want that water to flow into the Cholistan desert. The Pakistani generals, bureaucrats, judges, what have you, they have bought land there at throwaway rates. And now once the canal comes in, that area will become gold. And, the price will go up 1,000-fold. So, we are looking into a situation in developing in Cholistan, which is a part of Punjab, of the Pakistani Punjab, at the expense of Sindh. Sindh is not going to take this lying down. It is a life and death situation for them. And I think that Sindh is going to erupt in great violence in the times to come. Balochistan is already in flames. Sindh will be in flames. And Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we know what the problem is there. Except for Punjab, that is the only province of theirs which is going to remain. It will become at some point of time in history an isolated country without access to the sea, and it is the problem which they have created for themselves.
So very quickly, sir, can we say that Pakistan is heading to a situation which is going to be quite untenable even for their army to handle?
Actually, the situation is very untenable for the army to handle even now. India has been very kind. We had that agreement with them, a ceasefire agreement on the line of control. If we didn't have that, they would have been in very, very serious trouble. As a military man, I can tell you, it is very, holding on to areas for a prolonged period of time is a very, very difficult situation. Their army doesn't have the capacity to do it. So when Sindh goes up in flames and Balochistan goes up in flames, their army does not have the capacity or capability to address these two internal security problems with the strength they have. So
Fine.
That is the situation.
Yes. So thank you very much, both of you, General Katoch and Tara Kartha. We've been able to pack in as much as we could in this very, very enlightening discussion. Thank you for your perspective.
Thank you so much.
I'm afraid we'll have to put a stop to the conversation here, but looking forward to having both of you in some other episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, it is easy for the Pakistani government and the military to make tall, totally unsubstantiated claims, but they would be advised to look more within rather than making claims and imaginary claims on India. On that note, viewers, we would like to wind up Media Scan for this weekend, but I leave you with some very heartwarming visuals of our young women, the Nari Shakti in the Indian Armed Forces.
Captain.